So, here's what we're doing today. Square root equations. The square root of what would equal 5? 25. Yeah, this would just be x equals 25. But what if we make it a little bit trickier? What if we say like square root of x minus 3 equals 5? Okay, well, some of you might be able to do this in your head, but let's talk about how to do it algebraically. So what you want to do, if you've got the square root by itself over here, we want to get rid of the square root. So what is the opposite? You guys need to stop taking my graph paper. That's not for you. Okay, well, I'm talking to Davin right now. Okay. All right, what was I talking about? Oh, here we go. So what we want to do is get rid of the square root. So what is the opposite of square root? Squaring. So when you square a square root, they cancel out. It's kind of like if you do like square root of 3 squared, that would be square root of 9, which is just 30. Okay, squares and square roots cancel each other out. But if you do that to one side, you have to do it to the other side. So on the left side, the square root is just going to go away. So it's just going to be x minus 3. On the right side, you have 5 squared, which is 25. Okay, and then you do a little bit of algebra, plus the 3 over, so you get x is 28. Just like all equations, you can plug it back in and see if it actually works. Those weren't there originally. 28 minus 3 is 25. The square root of 25 equals 5. So yeah, it does work. Okay, there is one problem with squaring both sides. And that would be something like this. Because if I square both sides of this, I would get x equals 25. But is the square root of 25 actually negative 5? No. So sometimes you get answers that don't actually work and it's usually going to be something to do with this negative thing here. So you do kind of need to check your answer and make sure it actually works. How many? I see 1 odd and 1 even, no solution. So you're going to find an answer, but if you try to plug it back in, it's not going to work. Okay, one more thing I want to mention. Okay. How about this one? Well, if you tried to square both sides right now, the left side squared would be a FOIL problem. And if you FOIL 2 of these together, the square root would not go away. Okay? It would be a mess. It would be a mess, basically. Because you'd have to multiply every term by every term, so it wouldn't work. So you don't want to do that. So what do you guys think we should do on this one? Any guesses? Add 3. Okay, so what you want to do is get the square root by itself first. Once you have the square root by itself, then you can square both sides and you should have no problems. So if I square this, now it's just 2x equals 100, divided by 2 is just 50. Okay, so you guys see the difference between this problem and the last problem? The last problem, everything was under the square root, so we just squared both sides. In this problem, the minus 3 was not in the square root, so we want to get rid of it first. Just added 3 to get rid of it on this side. Then once we got the square root by itself, then we squared both sides. Okay, number 1. Square root of x equals 4. This might trick us because people might do it backwards, like they might say square root of 4 is 2. That would be wrong. 2 is not the answer. It's the square root of what equals 4, not the square root of 4. So, Josiah, what do we do to get rid of a square root here? I'd probably should pay attention then. Any ideas? Leah? What's the opposite of a square root? Corbin?
You would do double or sec to square it.
Alright. Square. When you square the square root of x, it just becomes x. These two cancel out. And then on the right side, we got 4 squared, which is 16. Because the square root of 16 is 4. Alright, number 3. Square root of x plus 2 equals 8. Alright, AJ, what should we do first? Right, square it. And then the left side will become x plus 2. And the right side, 8 squared. Don't do 8 times 2. Actually, this is 8 times 8. 64. And then you subtract the 2. We get x equals 62. Let's plug it back in and make sure it actually works here. If I plug in 62, 62 plus 2, 64. The square root of 64 is 8. Remember I said there will be a couple that don't work. So we need to watch out for the no solutions. Alright, hands to yourself, boys. Okay, Miranda, any guesses on what we should do first on this one? Yeah. That's right, minus 3. You want to get the square root by itself first. Then it kind of looks like number 1, right? And then what would we do?
6 times 6.
Yeah, square it, yeah, 6 times 6. And that would be 36. Okay, so we have, does square root of 36 plus 3 equal 9? Yes, it does. So I'm just checking my answers here, make sure it actually works. Most of them should work. Almost all of them. Here's a weird one. You guys know what this one is without doing algebra? Yeah, the square root of what equals 0? It'd be 0. So x would need to be negative 5 to make this a 0. Okay, but if we did it normally, we'd square that and we get x plus 5. 0 squared? Still 0. And then minus 5. Yeah, you guys are right. It's negative 5. Okay, number 9.
How would you do number 8?
What would you guess?
I don't really know. Divide by 4?
Divide the 3 first before you square it.
And square it and divide by 2.
Yes. Speaking of, okay, Sophia, what should we do on this one? subtract 5. So we want to get that squared by itself before we try squaring anything. So now we have just square root of x plus 5 on the left side of the equals, and on the right side we have 7 minus 5. Dos. And then we square it. Okay, so minus 5, 4 minus 5 is -1. Let's make sure that works. -1 plus 5 is 4. The square root of 4 is 2. 2 plus 5 is 7. It does work. 2 minus square root of x equals -8. Alright, what do you think we should do first on this one? Any guesses?
Subtract the 2.
Right, subtract the 2. Now, when you subtract the 2, it's kind of like, when we solve these, you subtract the 2. That minus is still going to be there, right? So, yeah, subtract the 2. That goes away. The minus is on the square root of x. It's still there. You actually could square both sides right now. That would be fine. Or you could just divide both sides by -1, and that would get rid of the negatives. Okay, doesn't really matter. Either way, you're going to get -10 squared or 10 squared is the same thing. What is 10 squared? 100. Alright, does this actually work? Square root of 100 is 10. 2 minus 10 is -8. Yes, it does. Okay, we haven't found the one that doesn't work yet. We're running out of problems, so it should be coming up. 7 plus 3. Alright, get messier. Alright, Hank, what do you think we should do on this one?
Add the 7 and 3.
Okay, this is kind of like this. It's kind of the same thing. You guys see how this looks the same? The square root I kind of replaced with an x, but what would we do to solve this? Subtract 7. Now, why can't we do 7 plus 3? It has to do with the order of operations. Multiply comes before adding, so 7 plus 3x is not going to be 10x or whatever. Yeah, they're not like terms, you can't add them together. So you would subtract 7
And that'd be -21.
and divide by 3. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. Subtract 7. Yeah, -21. And divide by 3. 3 is multiplied to the square root, so we are dividing it. Okay, now I got the square root by itself, so I'm going to get rid of it by squaring. Square the left side, square the right side, you get
X minus 3 and 49.
so. Got 52. Does 52 work? So the order of operations, this is kind of like parentheses. So you would do this times this plus this. So 52 minus 3 is 49. The square root of 49 is 7. 7 times 3 is 21. 21 plus 7 is 28.
So no.
So it doesn't work. So we're actually going to kind of throw that out. So the answer is no solution. That was the no solution symbol. Or you could use the words no solution. Okay, if you'd put 52, I'd give you half credit, but yeah. Be ashamed to do all that work and get it wrong. Number 15. Let's see, 5 plus 2. All right. Jackson, what should we do first on this one? Subtract 5. It's kind of like the one Hank just did. And then, square it. Alright, so we get 1, 2, 4. There's 24. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and check it. 124. 124 minus 3 is 121. Square root of 121 is 11. Times 2 is 22. Plus 5 is 27. So it works. All right, Avery.
Subtract the 14.
Yep. Okay.
And multiply by -1.
Multiply.
Plus that.
Yep. Yeah. So when you multiply, or you can even say divide by -1, the signs are just going to switch.
And then you square it. And add 3.
All right, 19. Does 19 work? 19 minus 3 is 16. Square root of 16 is 4. 14 minus 4, 10. So yeah. Uno más. Oh, 20. I'll help you guys with the first step on 20. How about that? But then we'll stop after that. Maybe somebody could figure it out, but I do want everybody to do that one. All right, Manny, what should we do on 19?
First, we should subtract 12.
Did I copy this right? 19, 12 minus 4, x minus 3 equals 7. Okay, yeah. Well, I thought it looked weird because I saw a fraction coming, and it is a fraction. But we fear no fractions, right? Fractions fear us. All right, now what?
Then we divide by -4.
So we get x minus 3. Negative divided by negative is positive. 5 doesn't really divide by 4 well, so we just leave it as 5/4.
Then we square both of them.
Square it. You guys know how to square a fraction?
You just do the square of the thing, so it'd be
Yeah.
25/16.
Yeah, it's like, yes. You do top squared and the bottom squared. Because it literally means what's 5/4 times 5/4, right? So it's just 5 times 5 and 4 times 4. Yeah, it's 25/16. Okay. Now, you guys know how to add 3 without a calculator? Here? 3/1. Need a common denominator, so times 16, so that would be 48/16. Kind of a mess, isn't it? So it's 73/16. Very messy. Oh gosh, that would be a mess to plug in, or without a calculator. But yeah, if you subtract those two, you should get 25/16. Square root of that is 5/4 times 4 is 5. 12 minus 5 is 7. It's gonna work. Probably should use a calculator if you want to check that one, but. Okay, let's look at 20 because it does look a little bit different than the rest of them. Saving the best for last. 5 squared root of x minus 13. I think I'm just going to do one step with you guys here. And that would be the first step. Okay, so what's weird about this one is we got square roots on both sides. Any guesses? Luke.
You would subtract 5.
Subtract 5 square. Subtract 5?
Yes.
Not quite.
You'd add 5.
Close. If they're not on the same side of the equals, they don't really add together. Yeah. So
Subtract 2 and then the rest of it.
here's my hint. What do we do on this problem?
Just 2x.
We would like subtract 2x, right? So these, yeah, they're like terms. We can just subtract them. Almost the exact same idea as this.
So if you subtract them, that would.
So that would be 3 square root of x. Alright, that's where I'm getting off.